Hey, what's up? Let's talk about Krypto, the Last Dog of Krypton, issue number 2. Warning, there will be spoilers, and warning, this issue touches on animal abuse. So, fair warning. So, if you don't know what happened in the last issue, well, at the very end, Krypto actually ends up meeting Lex Luthor, and we pick up where that leaves off, where Lex actually ends up taking Krypto home with him. He starts to try to train him and stuff. He's not really nice to Krypto at all. He gives him a box to lay on. He, yells at him. He hits him. Krypto is not having a fun time, that's for sure. While Lex leaves, Krypto actually ends up chewing the leg of Lex's bed, and Lex comes back and he is furious with Krypto. He actually ends up locking him up in a cage and only feeds him when Krypto is actually a good boy. And we actually find out one day when Lex is working on something at his desk that he has actually orchestrated this whole thing to where he purposely got sent to live with this distant relative of his who actually is in like a poor part of Metropolis. And he's working on this thing, and we find out that it's actually a firebomb. And he's going to use it to kill his relatives and collect the insurance money that he will get out of it, apparently. Lex actually leaves his house again, and he actually ends up knocking over the firebomb, and it actually ends up going off. And Lex comes back, and he is so shocked that, his house is on fire, obviously, right? And he goes in, what you think he's going to go in to save his relatives. No, he actually ends up going in to save Krypto, and Krypto actually, doesn't have his powers at the moment, so he could possibly die, right? And so Lex is so worried about Krypto, he never goes to actually save his relatives. I believe it's like his cousin or aunt, uncle, or something like that. Krypto starts to realize what's going on, and he actually ends up turning on Lex and leaving him there high and dry and running away. And Krypto is all alone now. All right, so let's take a look at the internal artwork for this issue. There's your creative team right there. And this actually does give you a content warning on this particular issue. The artwork is very well done, even though it does tackle some pretty harsh, tough subject matter of abuse and stuff like that. They do play around with a lot more darker colors in this to insinuate, what's going on and happening to Krypto. It definitely does set the mood, that's for sure, in this particular issue. And it does play off of Krypto and him not being able to talk, and then just showing the reactions on his face like says it all. Like, Krypto doesn't need words to tell his story, that is for sure. And Lex definitely like freaking gaslights Krypto all in this book, and it's just a sad read, I have to say. But the artwork is beautiful. They definitely do knock it out of the park in this particular issue, that is for sure. I have to say this issue was most definitely a hard read to get through. It definitely does not shy away from, animal abuse and stuff like that, which I do. It's hard for me to say this. I praise them, the creators, for taking the risk in telling a story with a beloved character like Krypto and putting him into this situation. I just didn't really care to read this. Now, going into this, I have figured we would get something bad happen to Krypto because, Lex is technically a bad guy. But I didn't expect this. Like, he treats Krypto like a piece of what up until the end when he tries to save him. And at this point, I feel like Lex, even though he tried to save Krypto, and he did save Krypto, I feel like Lex is now the biggest piece of shit in the DC universe. And I don't feel like he has any really big redeeming factors because he abuses animals, to be honest. Which that was a hard part to get through this second issue. I was like, I'm not having fun reading this, like, at all. Like, I don't want to see my beloved Krypto, who I like, go through all this terrible shit. But I hope he comes out better in the long run, possibly moving forward in issue 3, 4, and 5, I think. Like, I hope we are at the darkest place in this Krypto story, and I hope Krypto starts to get better and better, and maybe developing his powers and stuff like that. But man, this was a rough issue, and I hate to say that because it was a well put together issue, well written issue. We do definitely focus a lot on Lex and what his mindset is at this point in his life, which was a really interesting, fascinating look at him and how he's scheming and being very maniacal and stuff, and thinking people are beneath him and stuff. Very typical Lex Luthor stuff. And to see his plan go awry at his hand, and he doesn't get what he wants in the end, which is to get all this money from this life insurance policy that is taken out on his family or whatever, is a pretty nice comeuppance, I feel like, at this point, because he doesn't get what he wants. So there's kind of sort of like a happy ending, a little bit, tiny little bit here. But I mean, it is what it is. I really hope we don't get any more hurting on Krypto, to be honest. But I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. I'm Otaku Mike, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.